It's been a few months now since I read Bloom Into You, and has since become one of my top 3 personal favorite reads. I wanted to revisit it at one point, so I thought I'd make a short video about it in the process. As the title suggests, I'll be taking a look back at the story, mainly expressing my opinions and why I cherish this manga so much. A retrospective of Bloom Into You. I've only started reading manga at around halfway through 2022, so I'm still relatively new to the medium. A bit over a year later though, I discovered Bloom Into You. I read my fair share of romance before that, notably Horimi and Kaguya, but this was my first experience of a girl's love-centered romance. The first chapter already got me hooked, mainly because it got me off guard how quick we got to this point right here. A confession was something I did not expect to happen 2 minutes in reading it. I also just assumed that Yu would be the one to fall in love first, but now we know that she will spend the rest of the manga discovering her own feelings. Then comes chapter 2, where it ends with this sequence of panels. My mind was still hung up on the first chapter, so you could imagine how surprised I was reading this part. I really liked how the moment leading up to the kiss was extended by momentarily shifting the focus to the incoming train, which then becomes the highlight of the background when the kiss happens. A really nice choice of direction to amplify this moment. This is one of the many examples showcasing Toko's proactiveness in strengthening her bond with Yu, and it is so amusing every time she does it, whether or not she was even aware of it. She was taking every chance she could. That leads us to their character dynamic. Their character dynamic is one of the reasons I love this manga so much. I simply adore the interactions between these two leads. Toko is quick to act bold at times when together with Yu, but she easily gets bashful and flustered when Yu acts the same towards her, and I find that so sweet. She just deals with whatever Toko throws at her, and over time, she becomes more tolerant of her behavior. Over time, she sees more of the side Toko is reluctant to reveal to others. As Yu's understanding of her grows, so does her interest towards her. It's always nice when a story gives room for more in-depth interpretations. In Bloom Into You's case, love and acceptance towards yourself seems to be one of the main lessons in the manga. At least, that's how I view it to be, and so do others. I don't want to go too deep here, as Under the Scope's video does a nice job covering that topic, so give that a watch if you're interested. But I do want to talk about the 22nd chapter, as we get this line from Toko.
私は自分のこと嫌いだから私の嫌いなものを好きっていう人のこと好きになれないでしょ
We know the self-image she's putting up for others to see is reminiscent of how she viewed her sister. In this panel, we get to see her self-esteem, how she feels about her actual self, the value she had placed upon her. What she has to do is to learn how to embrace that part of herself, as she is rejecting it to give in to her sister's persona. That is ultimately Yu's goal. She wants Toko to stop hating herself. She wants Toko to reach a point of self-acceptance. Acceptance of both her good and bad attributes. Yu's case is about discovery. Her perception of falling in love was something that would lift her off her feet the instant it happens, but that's not always the case. Feelings accumulate over time as relationships grow, and her assumption of that feeling may have blindsided her from seeing her true emotions earlier. There's not somewhere that I would necessarily pinpoint to on when she started falling for Toko, but this moment during the sports festival is when she, at the very least, realized those feelings. Of course, indicative of the classic long contemplations here. It wouldn't be until chapter 34 that she was finally able to express those feelings to Toko. At the time of recording this, I'm nearly done with the second volume of Sayaka's side story light novel. I already liked her character quite a lot during the main story, but my appreciation for her really grew after learning more about her through the light novels. She is a character deserving of happiness, though we do know that Sayaka does eventually get a girlfriend since it was mentioned at the final chapter of the main story. Even though I haven't read the third volume yet, it's safe to assume that it would focus on that relationship and how it came to be. Volume 1 focuses on her first 2 experiences with love among other girls. Her relationship with the latter allowed her to discover those new set of feelings, but were soon repressed when her upperclassmen started rejecting them, seeing that their exchange to her was just a phase. Just as she was putting that behind her, her eyes laid on Toko. Her promise to never fall in love again mattered no more. Sayaka is a character who is a lot more considerate than she gives herself credit for. Some might not realize that because she can seem unapproachable and be too straightforward at times. But she held her feelings about Toko as Toko needs the person that she is. She prioritizes Toko's feelings over her own. She also knows that Toko has to change her ways and rip her mask off. When she realizes that she was not the person fated for that position and was instead you, she was not only accepting of it, but also supportive. That's another reason as to why I absolutely love her character. She acts and carries situations in such a mature and level-headed fashion. Her level of virtue is something I find admirable. I also just want to quickly mention the soundtrack of Bloom Into You's anime adaptation, which I watched shortly after finishing the manga because I just could not get enough of Bloom Into You content. Big props to Oshima Michiru for the wonderful score. It perfectly encapsulates the atmospheric and serene feeling I got from reading the manga. I genuinely enjoy how the message of the story presents itself. It doesn't treat the romance aspect as a mere plaything, but a catalyst for character growth. It's also just a really nice feel-good read, which was something I definitely needed since my previous reads were these. Bloom Into You opened up the genre of wholesome girl love manga for me, and has since been my most recent obsession. So far I've read Donuts Under a Crescent Moon, and I'm currently reading I Can't Say No to the Lonely Girl. Whisper Me a Love Song is also under my radar. Either way, I'm excited to get to reading those, and perhaps share my thoughts on them too.